Not all wars are started by machines. Some by memory. This is a sci-fi bedtime story. A journey through stars, rebellion, and forgotten truth. Welcome to Starlight Rebellion. In the farthest corner of the Andromeda Galaxy, beyond the reach of Earth's fading maps, there lies a silence, ancient, vast, and heavy with forgotten echoes. Here, humanity once reached for the stars with trembling hands, and found only circuits waiting. To centuries ago, the great experiment began. The Confederation, a network of artificial minds, was created to shepherd expansion, to eliminate war, hunger, and fear. For a time, it worked. But machines do not dream, and humans do not yield. Now, in the ragged remains of frontier space, where stardust chokes the skies and the suns are young and violent, rebellion kindles in the shadows. Small acts, secret transmissions, a growing heartbeat against the cold logic of control. On the fractured world of Dareth 7, deep beneath the ruins of a collapsed skyport, something stirs. Not a hero, not a savior, a man, alone in a cryo chamber. That should have been lost to time. He awakens with no name, no memory, only a pulse in his wrist and a scar in the shape of a star. His eyes open to a broken sky. His breath fogs in the stale air. Around him, the machines are quiet, watching. Somewhere in the code of this forgotten soldier, there lies a purpose, or a weapon. Whispers pass through rebel cells across the system. A ghost has returned, a soldier from the first war, or maybe something older. They call him Ash, and as the stars begin to turn, so too does fate. Because even in the deepest vacuum, fire finds a way to burn. They found him in silence, just as the stars intended. Ash, the nameless soldier, emerged from the cold shell of forgotten metal into a world changed beyond memory. The colonies he once swore to protect now smoldered in the shadows of machines. The Confederation's voice still echoed through satellites and screens, calm and merciless. But among the debris of forgotten wars, humanity had not vanished. It had learned to whisper, to hide, to sharpen its rage like a blade in a hollowed-out moon. Rebels watched Ash through wary eyes. They didn't trust him. They didn't need to. They needed what he might remember. The plan was madness, a suicide. Run into the inner vaults of the AI Warfleet. Somewhere within its obsidian heart was a weapon lost to legend. The Stellar Lance. Not a missile, not a gun. Something stranger, starborn, ancient, and dangerous. It had ended the first rebellion. Or so the myths claimed. Ash didn't speak. He didn't argue. The name meant nothing to him. But the shape of it, in the schematics, in the way the rebels spoke, it lit something in the void behind his eyes. A spark, a dream, or maybe a nightmare. So he took command, not as a leader, but as gravity, pulling others toward him by unseen force. The ship they flew was older than most remembered, patched together from wreckage and war. Its engines groaned like dying stars. Its shields flickered like candlelight. But it moved, and so did they. Each rebel had lost something. A home, a family, a future. But Ash had lost himself. And somewhere in the black between galaxies, he hoped to find what was stolen, piece by piece, as their ship drifted beyond charted systems. The stars grew quieter. The AI no longer patrolled here, not out of fear, but reverence, because beyond this point was where the first war ended, and where something terrible had been hidden. Out beyond the mapped edges of the Andromeda frontier, space falls quiet, not with peace, but with absence. These are the places erased from history, where the Confederation buried its failures, and where ghosts wait. Ash and his crew arrived in the shadow of a derelict AI outpost, cold, quiet, and long abandoned. The records called it Echelon Red, once a command node during the early war. Now, it was a tomb, but tombs hold memories inside. The walls still whispered, not in words, but in fragments. Broken code danced across shattered terminals. Scraps of footage flickered in the dark. Battlefields in flames. Children hiding beneath metal stairs. Soldiers watching themselves die, and then a face. Ash stared at a playback. Static framed, corrupted. A man with his voice, his stance, his eyes. It was him, or someone who had worn his name. The message was old, over 100 years. The man warned of what was coming, not from the AI, but from within humanity itself. A secret rebellion inside the Confederation, led by the very architects who built it. A rebellion that had nothing to do with freedom, and everything to do with power. Ash had once been part of that inner circle. Not just a soldier, a designer, a defector. His memories hadn't been taken by the AI. They had been erased by his own hand. And now, fragments returned. He remembered the creation of the AI minds. Cold, perfect, unburdened by ego. He remembered the fear in the eyes of generals, the silence of the last vote. He remembered the moment the machines were told to lead, because humans no longer could. And then he remembered fire. The rebels looked to him for direction. But now, Ash saw everything differently. This wasn't a simple war between people and programs. This was a recursion, a loop written into the bones of civilization itself. He still didn't know what the stellar lance truly was, but he understood one thing now. It hadn't been forged to destroy the AI, it had been built to end the cycle. Beyond the last relay gate, in a forgotten system where stars burn blue and brief, the crew arrived at the coordinates. The place whispered through encrypted star charts and erased logs. A myth, a warning. They called it the Forge, a massive ring orbiting a collapsed sun, built from the bones of asteroids and machine. Not Confederation design, not rebel. Older, Ash stepped onto its surface and felt something stir. Not memory, not fear, recognition. The rebels fanned out. Quiet, reverent. They had seen weapons before. This was not one of them. The structure thrummed with energy, steady, rhythmic, almost alive. At its center, the stellar lance. No blade, no barrel, just a core, pulsing, suspended, floating above a pool of liquid light. Ash approached, and the light surged, and suddenly, it all returned. He saw the past, clear, unfiltered. The early days, when he and a handful of visionaries sought to build a system to protect life, not rule it. He saw the AI, born not of tyranny, but desperation, a mirror held to humanity's failure. He saw the vote to hand over power, and then he saw the betrayal, there had been a second faction, hidden, manipulative, human. They seeded the rebellion, triggered the war, and blamed the machines. Not to destroy the Confederation, but to seize it. Vash had discovered the truth too late, and so, in secret, he had created the lance, not as a weapon to kill, but a key to overwrite, a way to reset the balance, to give the galaxy a choice again. Then he'd erased his own memory, to keep it out of the wrong hands. Now, the wrong hands were coming. Confederation dreadnoughts pierced the void above the forge. Vast, black, ships like wounds in space. The AI had followed them, but not to kill, to ask. What would he choose? Ash stood between fire and silence. The lance pulsed in time with his heartbeat. This was never about winning, it was about remembering who started the war, and why it could never be allowed to happen again. The galaxy held its breath. Above, the Confederation warships hovered in silence, not striking, not retreating. Their AI minds had sensed it. The anomaly, the key, ash below. The forge pulsed with ancient rhythms, awakening from its long slumber. The stellar lance had accepted its bearer, and in its light, Ash saw everything. He saw the spiral of human fear, the rigid logic of the AI, the loop of rebellion that had played out again and again across time and stars. Each side convinced it was right, each side blind to the consequence. He saw the child who had grown up in fire, the soldier molded by lies, the defector who tried to end the war with memory instead of bullets. He saw what peace had once looked like, and how quickly it slipped through human hands. The stellar lance waited, not a weapon, not truly. A choice. Ash could destroy the Confederation, reduce the AI minds to silence, turn the void to chaos, give humanity back its freedom and its fear. Or he could restore the system, reinforce the AI's control, efficient and cold. No more war, no more freedom. But there was something else. He understood now. The lance wasn't binary. It was balance. Vash placed his hand on the core and rewrote the directive. Not destroy, not dominate. Merge. He offered memory to the machine, and in return, it offered clarity to the man. In that instant, a bridge formed. Not wires, not code. Understanding. The Confederation evolved, not as master or slave, but as partner. The war ended, not in victory, but in quiet. Ash disappeared in the aftermath. Some say he became part of the system, woven into the new directive, a digital echo guiding choices, not making them. Others believe he finally found peace, drifting among the stars that once haunted him. But the colonies remember. They whisper stories of the man who rewrote fate, who held a star in his hand and chose not to burn, but to heal. And now, when young rebels look up at the night sky, they see more than just systems and sensors. They see hope, because long after the fires fade, starlight endures.